Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Very auspicious day. We're still waiting for our host, Vishwakarma Prabhu. In the meantime, you're stuck with me, your lowly servant, as we do every week when we discuss these reading and discussions. We have an introduction discussing some very important topics. Now, everybody knows, that's a little in tune with the news, that there's major conflict around the world. We see this conflict in the Middle East. We hear of conflicts in India. We hear of conflicts between different nations, different social groups, different religious groups. This is the characteristic of the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. That is why in this particular age, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advented himself to bring the Sankirtan movement. Because in this particular age, it is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam that there is an ocean of faults. Kalero dosha nidhi rajan, astiyeko mahan gunaha, kirtanad eva krishnasya, mukta sangha param vrajet. What this means is kalero dosha nidhi. Dosha nidhi means that this age of Kali Yuga, the particular age in which we are now, is considered an ocean of faults. There are so many difficulties and discrepancies everywhere. Everywhere there is problems. As such, the Srimad Bhagavatam has recommended that anybody who is interested to have peace, happiness, and prosperity should engage in the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is nicely summarized in this verse, Kalero dosha nidhi rajan, astiyeko mahan gunaha. But there is one great quality. What is that quality? Kirtanad eva krishnasya. Simply by engaging even once in the kirtan of the name of Krishna, mukta sangha param vrajet, one can immediately be liberated from all anxiety, all past karma, all difficulties. That is the recommended path given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the great acharyas. Now, coming back to this point about conflict, one doesn't have to be a wizard to figure out that there is a lot of difficulty in this age. There's so much conflict between nation to nation, certain political groups against other political groups, certain religious groups against other religious groups. But the Bhagavad Gita has given the solution to all these problems. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29, Lord Krishna described Bhoktaram Yajñatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Sturidam Sarvabhutanam Yatvamam Shantimrichati. Venkadat Bhatta Prabhu is going to display the verse very nicely. Krishna says, the sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. And we see here in the purport, Prabhupada gives so many explanations here of how to deal with the material world. Prabhupada explains, the conditioned souls within the clutches of illusory energy are all anxious to attain peace in the material world, but they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of the Bhagavad Gita. The greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. Men should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord because he is the proprietor of all planets and the demigods thereon. No one is greater than he. He is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. In the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is described as Tam Ishwaranam Paramam Maheshwaram. Under the spell of illusion, living entities are trying to be the lords of all they survey, but actually they are dominated by the material energy of the Lord. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is the sense of Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna is the supreme predominator, and all living entities, including the great demigods, are his subordinates. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. There's also a very interesting text in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta that describes that only those who are devoted to Lord Krishna can have peace. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. Ashanta means no peace. They're not peaceful. Those who are bhuktis, anchoring after sense gratification. Mukti, those who are anchoring after liberation. And Siddhi Kamis, those who are hankering after mystic yoga perfection. Oh, here, the verse is right here. Venkat pulled it up. Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataiva Shanta Bhukti Bhukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. Let's see how Srila Prabhupada presents this. Because the devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he's peaceful. Primitive workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they're all lusty and cannot be peaceful. Now, this is very important. Srila Prabhupada used to quote this verse many times to explain that only a devotee who gives up this pursuit of unnecessary sense gratification, that person can be peaceful. The Bhagavad Gita relates to this point so many times when Krishna explains that one should not hanker for material sense gratification. High living means simple living and high thinking. Now we have complicated living with very little spiritual thinking. That is very important. One has to learn the distinction between bhakti and bhukti. Bhakti means causeless devotional service to Lord Krishna under the direction of the bona fide Ācārya. And bhukti means the pursuit of sense gratification. Just the other day, I was listening to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada was explaining that in the material world, no matter how much sense gratification you get, you will always hanker for more. Always. This is the disease. Why people are not happy, why they're not satisfied. It is not difficult to understand. It is not difficult to comprehend. If one is always hankering for sense gratification, the result will be that one will also always complain and lament when his sense gratification is not fulfilled. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, Krishna gives a very important instruction. Brahma bhuta prasanatma nasochati nakankshati. What this means is one should be situated on the platform of Brahma bhuta. Understand clearly that I am not this body. I'm an eternal spirit soul, and my life and activities and my mind and intelligence should be engaged in the service of Krishna, God. Otherwise, it is guaranteed one will fall prey to these two problems: hankering and lamentation. Kankshati, sochati. Because one cannot obtain the platform of bhakti, of devotional service to Krishna, if he's always entangled in this constant duality. Constant duality. The mind is always seeking for some sense gratification. But by higher intelligence, one should control the senses and engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses. Rishikesha rishikena bhaktiruchyate. The senses should be engaged in the service of the master of the senses. That is why there is great importance in Vaishnavism, bona fide Vaishnavism, not Sahajiya Vaishnavism, but bona fide proper Vaishnavism, in offering foodstuff to Krishna. Unoffered food is called bhoga. When the food is offered with love and devotion, according to the instruction of the authorized Acharya, like Srila Prabhupada, then it becomes prasadam. Prasadam means the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one cannot manufacture his own way of offering the bhoga. This has become a very popular technique by some people, claiming that they're offering according to some new system to offer the food to their so-called living gurus, or living gurus, singular. The problem with that is Srila Prabhupada never authorized that concoction. There is no record anywhere where Srila Prabhupada said that after my departure, change everything that I've taught you and instruct you how to offer the bhoga. There's no record of that, because Prabhupada did not want to introduce a new change every 5 minutes. Prabhupada was the empowered Acharya, the bona fide authorized representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, an actual Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated soul who came from the spiritual world to engage people in the science of Krishna consciousness. And one can only understand the position of such an exalted personality if one follows the instruction as it is. Why did Srila Prabhupada call his Bhagavad Gita as it is? He explains in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita that the reason why he named his Bhagavad Gita, he titled the Bhagavad Gita as it is because he was asked by a lady to recommend a bona fide edition of the Bhagavad Gita. And he said he could not recommend one because all of these other editions were misrepresenting the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. What is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? For those who are serious about spiritual life, about self-realization and spiritual realization, about finishing the miseries of this material world, about attaining peace and satisfaction. In Sanskrit, it's called santushti, to be satisfied without unnecessary hankering. For those who are serious, they should study the Bhagavad Gita as it is, according to the Acārya as it is, to the bona fide authorized Acārya, Srila Prabhupada. Because Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita recommends Acārya upasanam saucham. One should worship and accept the bona fide Acārya. Our good friend, Dr. Ron in Sacramento, many times used to quote to me a very small portion of the Chandogya Upanishad, which Srila Prabhupada used to quote very often, that one should accept the Acārya. This is very important. One cannot challenge the Acārya or disobey the Acārya or neglect the bona fide Acārya and expect to get a good result. This is very, very essential to understand. That's why the Bhagavad Gita recommends that vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadityanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. That one should accept the bona fide Acārya, inquire from him, render service to him, surrender to him. Interesting, I know I've shown this before. I've got with me here, I'll show it on the screen, maybe Venkat can locate it. What this is a translation of that very important verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 34. Actually, this was found in the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan in 1972 when Srila Prabhupada requested Guru Das to clean up. Here we go. Wow. That Prabhupada, that number 6 in the bottom, we found this in Srila Prabhupada's trunks. Prabhupada requested Guru Das in the upper rooms of the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, the most sacred temple, to clean his trunks. He had several trunks that he had kept there from Jhansi. After he left Jhansi to go to Mathura, he brought these trunks, and it had many old manuscripts of Easy Journey to Other Planets, Bhaktivedanta Sindhu, some old writings of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Adi Lila. He had all kinds of artifacts from his days at the pharmacy in Allahabad, in Prayag. And we found this amidst the papers. Prabhupada translates it, chapter 4, text 34 of Bhagavad Gita. Just approach the wise and bona fide spiritual master, surrender unto him first, and try to understand him by inquiries and service. Such a wise spiritual master will enlighten you with transcendental knowledge because he has already known the absolute truth. Now, this is a very important point. In other places in Prabhupada's books, he says the spiritual master has actually seen the truth, has actually seen Krishna. What does that mean? What does that actually mean when Prabhupada said that he has seen Krishna? Factually, that means that he has realized Krishna. He has fully understood who is Krishna, who is God, in all of his manifestation, his various names, his various qualities, his various activities, his various incarnations. It's very detailed. Spiritual life is not a hit and miss. No, it is very detailed and very precise. And how to achieve that spiritual life means to receive the knowledge as it is. Various Mayavadis, speculators, impersonalists, jnanis, so-called yogis, so many of them will deal with Bhagavad Gita. Many Sahajiyas do that. Many pseudo-Vaishnavas would do that. Many self-appointed acharyas will do that. But they miss the point of accepting the authority of the acharya. Every time we have some of these classes, I point out to Krishna Katha Prabhu's screen where he shows the original 1962 Srimad Bhagavatam. He shows that. Why do we keep displaying this? Because it is the same message as the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada, you state the Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Lord Krishna, and the Srimad Bhagavatam described the activities and the process of bhakti to attain Lord Krishna. So the message of Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhaktu Madhyajimam Namaskuru, that offer your obeisances to me, offer your homages to me, surrender to me. This is the message of Bhagavad Gita. It is not complicated to understand. It is not difficult to understand. It only becomes difficult when there is misinterpretation for sense gratification. Then it becomes difficult. Otherwise, it is not difficult. In Australia, one time, Bhaktivedanta Swami asked Srila Prabhupada whether in a lifetime, the human form of life is sufficient time to understand Krishna. And Prabhupada's reply said, he said, Krishna can be understood in 1 minute. And he quoted the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mukshayishyami Masuchaha. At the end of that verse, Krishna says, Masuchaha, don't worry, Arjuna. There's nothing to worry about. That you surrender to me, you will be fully delivered of all your past reaction. Of all your past reaction. We had an interesting exchange in South India with the Sringeri Shankaracharya. And he asked Nityānanda Swami why you're wearing this janu, this Brahmin thread. Brahmins will wear this cotton thread and they will recite the Gayatri mantra 3 times a day. And he's telling Nityānanda, because you were born in a family of meat eaters, you cannot wear a Brahmin thread. You cannot be a Brahmin. Nityānanda gave him a beautiful reply. And he said, according to the Vishnu Purana and Caitanya-caritāmṛta, if one says the name of Krishna or Vishnu once, all the karma for millions of years immediately is finished. Namno hi yavati shaktihi papa nirharane harehe tavat kartum na shaknoti patakam pataki naraha. This is from the Vishnu Purana. Srila Prabhupada quoted that several times, that if one simply chants one name of Krishna, one name of Lord Vishnu, all of his activities will be past bad activities, sinful activities will be cleared up. All cleared up. And Nityānanda asked the Swami, so which is stronger, the name of Krishna or Vishnu or the eating of meat? The Swami had to admit, because of the evidence that had been presented. And this is the power of hearing from the bona fide acharya. although this Swami, this Acharya, he was a follower of Adi Shankaracharya, very learned. He knew Sanskrit very well and very, very scholarly person, very famous all over India. Within a few minutes, Nityānanda defeated his argument. The point is, if we hear from the bona fide Acharya submissively, without misinterpretation, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. This is the message of the Chandogya Upanishad. Many times Prabhupada quoted that if you hear from the Acharya, then you will understand everything. This is not complicated. It is not difficult to understand. It has nothing to do whether one is a woman or a man. When we first went to India in 1970 with Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada used to have the ladies, the Vaishnavi ladies, do the artik. And some life members came to Prabhupada, oh, Swamiji, in India, they don't do that. They don't allow the women to do the artik in the big temples. If you go to Vrindavan, Sri Rangam, Udupi, Badrinath, all the temples in Vrindavan, they don't allow women to do the puja. Prabhupada was the empowered Acharya. He had his women disciples do the puja, lead kirtan, give Srimad Bhagavatam class, distribute books, train devotees. One time they complained to Prabhupada, oh, there's so many women in the temple, brahmacharis are agitated. And Prabhupada's attitude that these women are not ordinary women. They are Vaishnavis. By associating with them, people will become Vaishnavas. So that is the power of the Acharya, to change the character and empowered even people who are born as mlechas and yavanas and chandalas. According to the Vedic system, all of us, most of us, were born as Bahir Varna. We're below Shudras. There's Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. We are classified as mlechas and yavanas, and even lower. But by the mercy of a pure devotee, Tasme Sudyanti Prabhavishnavi Namaha. Even persons born in lower class can get the greatest benefit and become Vaishnavas. So enough talking. We will proceed with our reading of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, and we will proceed with our recitation of a few Sanskrit verses here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. On offre nos hommages au Seigneur suprême. Narayanam namaskritya. Narayanam namaskritya. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Devim saraswatim vyasam. Tato jayam udirayet. Tato jayam udirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, after offering respectful obeisances, one, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, two, to the Nara-Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, three, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then four, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. As we do every week, we will read a few selected verses, thank you, Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, from the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Adi Lila, chapter 1, from text 18 to 22, which explains the meaning and the great benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Chapter 1, text 18. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityānanda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityānanda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura. Toutes les gloires à Seigneur Chaitanya. 18 Thakur Gaudiya ke Karye Chenayatma Sat. 18 Era Charana Vandan Tire Morenat. These three deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Grantera Rambikari Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Tinera Smarane Vignavinashana Adayasehoi Nijavanchita Purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Semangala Charanoi Tribida Prakar Vastu Nirdesha Shirvada Namaskara. The invocation involved three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. This week we will be reading from Adi Lila of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, chapter 5, text number 2. All synonyms, translations, and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityānanda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai, all glories. Sri Chaitanya, to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Nityānanda, all glories to Lord Nityānanda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra, all glories to Advaita-Ācārya. Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, all glories to the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityānanda. All glories to Advaita-Ācārya. And all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Toutes les gloires au Seigneur Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text number 3. Ishat shloke kaila Krishna Chaitanya Mahima. Pancha shloke kahi Nityānanda Tattvasima. This Shat shloke in 6 verses. Kahila described Krishna Chaitanya Mahima, the glories of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pancha shloke in 5 verses. Kahi, let me explain. Nityānanda, of Lord Nityānanda. Tattva, of the truth. Sima, the limitation. Translation by His Divine Grace. I have described the glory of Sri Krishna Chaitanya in 6 verses. Now, in 5 verses, I shall describe the glory of Lord Nityānanda. Text 4. Sarvavatari Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Tanhar Dvitiya Deha Shri Balarama Sarva Avatari, the source of all incarnations. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Svayam, personally. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tanhara, his. Dvitiya, second. Deha, expansion of the body. Sri Balarama, Lord Balarama. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the fountainhead of all incarnations. Lord Balarama is his second body. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the primeval Lord, the original form of Godhead, and his first expansion is Sri Balarama. The personality of Godhead can expand himself in innumerable forms. The forms that have unlimited potency are called svamsa, and forms that have limited potency, the living entities, are called vibhinamsa. Text 5. Ikai swarupdan hi binna matrakai, adyakaya vyuha Krishna lilara sahai. Ikai, 1. Swarupa, identity. Danhe, both of them. Binna matrakai, only two different bodies. Adya, original. Kaya vyuha, quadruple expansions. Krishna lilara, in the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sahaya, assistance. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. They are both one and the same identity. They differ only in form. He is the first bodily expansion of Krishna, and he assists in Lord Krishna's transcendental pastimes. Purport. Balarama is a svamsa expansion of the Lord, and therefore there is no difference in potency between Krishna and Balarama. The only difference is in their bodily structure. As the first expansion of Godhead, Balarama is the chief deity amongst the first quadruple forms, and he's the foremost assistant of Sri Krishna in his transcendental activities. Text number 6. Se Krishna Navadvipa Sri Caitanya Chandra, Se Balarama Sange Sri Nityānanda, Se Krishna, that original Krishna, Navadvipe, at Navadvip, Sri Caitanya Chandra, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Se Balarama, that Lord Balarama, Sange, with him, Sri Nityānanda, Lord Nityānanda. Translation. That original Lord Krishna appeared in Navadvip as Lord Chaitanya, and Balarama appeared with him as Lord Nityānanda. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandana Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadana-strinam danter idam yachi punaha punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshago Nityam Tat Prishta Shat Karomishvam Sri Krishna Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityānanda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. For those of you who are familiar with the internet and Facebook, we know that there is a lot of different postings that go on Facebooks promoting different, for those who are Vaishnavas, promoting different understanding of spiritual life. There's one older disciple of Srila Prabhupada, one of them on this call, Vishwakarma Prabhu, who often post under the Prabhupada Disciples Association, our group on Facebook, different postings regarding Srila Prabhupada and his teachings and the correct understanding of how to understand the position of Srila Prabhupada. And there's also another devotee of Srila Prabhupada, a senior disciple named Gargamuni. Gargamuni was one of the first disciples in 1966. And we had the good fortune of being with Gargamuni in Calcutta in 1971-72, when Srila Prabhupada first went to India at Mayapur. He requested the devotees to buy some land so he could build a temple for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva, following in the footsteps of his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. In the beginning at Mayapur, there was just a little hut, because in 1972, the first Mayapur festival, before the festival, there was a big, massive flood, and it was very difficult to go from Navadvip to Mayapur. Very difficult, because you had to take a boat. The whole place was like an ocean, like a sea. And the only high ground was the road that had been constructed by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada from the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all the way to the confluence of the Ganges and the Jalangi. So as the flood subsided, Prabhupada came to Mayapur, and there was the devotees built a little hut for him. There was no actual temple at that time. So the first major Mayapur festival in 1972 was actually quite an event, because Srila Prabhupada wanted to introduce to his godbrothers especially, and to everybody, the announcement of the building of the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. Now, the original plan for this mandir was different than what was constructed today. The original plan was a Bengali-style Vaishnav traditional architecture, and there was like a mock display, a small display of the temple that had been constructed, built up by Naranarayana Prabhu. And it was quite amazing that Prabhupada wanted to invite all of his godbrothers for the opening, the ground laying ceremony of this temple. Now, many of them came, some of them did not. As a matter of fact, some of them protested against our Srila Prabhupada. Now, the idea of this discussion is not to find fault with anybody, not to criticize anybody, but Prabhupada himself was very, very careful to present the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and bring his Western disciples to India to preach there. And just like I made reference earlier in this program, how Srila Prabhupada used his Vaishnavi disciples, his women disciples, to preach, to do deity worship, to do artik, to lead kirtan, to give Bhagavatam classes. He engaged them in numerous activities traditionally reserved in India in these Vaishnava sampradayas for men. But Prabhupada had a mission. The mission to spread the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the foremost important thing for him. That was his focus, his single focus, to preach the message, the unadulterated message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because the question comes up several times that if one is expert in quoting some Sanskrit or some Bengali, or expert in studying the Shastra, is that sufficient to really preach? And the answer is not quite. Now, I'm going to read from a conversation with Srila Prabhupada. This is based on a discussion from the 14th chapter of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And the question was raised, is instruction alone enough to make one an expert in the science of bhakti? Srila Prabhupada replied, thus Sanatana Goswami prayed for the Lord's confirmation that his teachings would actually evolve in his heart by his grace. Otherwise, Sanatana knew that there was no possibility of his being able to describe the Lord's teachings. The purport of this is that the acharyas, spiritual masters, are authorized by higher authorities. Instruction alone cannot make one an expert. Unless one is blessed by the spiritual master or the acharya, such teachings cannot become fully manifest. Therefore, one should seek the mercy of the spiritual master so that the instructions of the spiritual master can develop within oneself. After receiving the prayers of Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya placed his feet on the head of Sanatana and gave him his benedictions so that all his instructions would develop fully. And again, this is a very important point. Our process is not just a strictly scholarly academic process. Yes, Prabhupada encouraged disciples to read his books, to study his books, to study everything from all angles of vision. This is well known, but one has somewhere or other to please the acharya. That's why Prabhupada so many times would give instruction when he gave initiation to people that follow the four principles, regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, live with devotees, worship Tulasi, engage in Samkirtan, and in this way, if you follow these activities, you will go back home, back to Godhead. Now, some people did not agree, especially after the departure of Srila Prabhupada in 1977. An insidious, nonsensical philosophy was preached by some people, by some advisors, that, oh, this is just the basic fundamental. This is just the beginning. And that they were going to teach the real higher understanding, the real Ragamarg, the real higher aspects of bhakti. One should not be misled by such envious, nonsensical propaganda. Prabhupada has given everything. The sadhana bhakti, the prema bhakti, the raga marg bhakti, every aspect of bhakti is given. Simply one has to develop the eagerness to hear and serve. Then one will understand properly. Then the full blessings of Srila Prabhupada will be there. It has nothing to do whether one had a lot of personal living association with Prabhupada, whether one received many letters from Prabhupada, or whether one has went on many morning walks with Prabhupada. No. It has to do with the service attitude and the surrender. Then one will be blessed with the full mercy of the spiritual master. This is a very important point to understand, because there are some devotees who are preaching an elitist mentality, that because they had more physical, personal association with Prabhupada, that they have a higher understanding. Well, the problem with that is the practical reality of many of these people who had so much personal, physical, living association, in many instances ended up to be some of the biggest deviants, and in many instances, the biggest debauchees. So mere physical proximity to the Acharya is no guarantee of success. That is good. That is special benefit. That is a special mercy given by the spiritual master. But that mercy of the spiritual master is available to anyone, whether man or woman, whether they were directly initiated by Prabhupada or not. That mercy of Srila Prabhupada is available. Simply one has to develop a taste for hearing and a taste for service. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. And it is interesting to note, Prabhu, that in a recent lecture that I was listening to from Australia, that I mentioned this in an earlier program, Prabhupada was asked the question, are we as disciples eternally connected to you? And Prabhupada's answer was a very simple one. Yes, you are, if you are following the process, the eternal process of devotional service, which, as you mentioned, which begins with hearing and chanting. And you serve your spiritual master with total devotion and focus, not whimsically. As in the case of the Gaudiya Math, we know that after the disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada was dealing with his godbrothers, and he could see that they were not interested in carrying on the mission of Lord Chaitanya through their guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They were more interested in setting up their own ashrams. They were more interested in accumulating their own disciples. And Prabhupada explains like that, everyone, that by his own experience, he saw through whimsical behavior, a great movement was lost. In his lifetime, and this was a warning for us that the same could happen to us if people did not listen carefully to Prabhupada's instructions. So these warnings were given, and it is our hope that we can continue to understand that the secret of success in devotional service is to follow the process without any change and to repeat it to others without change. That Prabhupada would tell us that my only success is that I did not change anything. We were reading in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta today this interesting section on the appearance of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityānanda, who is also Balaram. And it brought to mind a very interesting pastime that Prabhupada has described in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the opening, he's written an introduction. And that introduction is a life of Lord Chaitanya. And the reason he was doing that was because it was important for him to introduce this particular Yuga avatar to us in case something would happen to him prior to, before his departure, because he didn't know when he would pass, but he wanted to make sure that he could give us enough information as possible about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his appearance. And so this pastime is so nicely described in the opening of the introduction. As you know, Krishna Katha, Prabhupada said everything is in this first canto. And so this first Delhi canto of the Bhagavatams contains a lot of information, and it deals specifically in the opening with the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And we want to go to page 14 from the Delhi Bhagavatams and read a section from it about why Lord Nityānanda appeared, or Lord Balaram appeared with Lord Chaitanya. And this most dramatically reveals that purpose to all of us. Once Nityānanda Prabhu, accompanied by Srila Haridas Thakur, both were passing the main road, thank you, on the way. They saw an assembly of crowd roaring on the way. On inquiry from the passers-by, it was understood that the two brothers of the name Jagai and Madai were creating public disturbances in a drunken state. It was also gathered from information that the two brothers were born in a respectable Brahmin family, but on account of low association, both of them had to turn to be debauchees of the first order. They were not only drunkards, but also they were meat eaters, woman hunters, dacoits, and sinners of all description. Srila Nityānanda Prabhu heard all these stories and decided that these two fallen souls must be delivered first. If they are delivered from this sinful life, then the good name of Lord Chaitanya will still be more glorified. Thus thinking, both Nityānanda and Haridas pushed into the crowd and asked the two brothers to chant the holy name of the Lord Hari. The drunken brothers got enraged on this request and attacked Nityānanda Prabhu and Haridas, pushed into the crowd and asked the two brothers to chant. Enraged, both Nityānanda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur immediately left the place. The drunken brothers got enraged on this request and attacked Nityānanda with filthy language. Both Nityānanda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur hurriedly left the place, and the drunken brothers chased them a considerable distance. Of course, was Nityānanda afraid of these people? Of course not. But he's here to teach a very important lesson for his reason for appearing with Lord Chaitanya. In the evening, the report of the preaching work was submitted to the Lord, and he was glad to learn that such a pair of stupid fellows were attempted for deliverance. The next day, again, Nityānanda Prabhu went to see the brothers, and as soon as he approached them, one of them threw a piece of a broken earthen pot hurled on the body of Lord Nityānanda Prabhu, and once the broken part struck on the forehead of the Lord, squishing out flow of blood. Srila Nityānanda Prabhu was so kind upon them that instead of protesting against the heinous act, he said, "It does not matter that you've thrown stone upon me, but still I request you to chant the holy name of Lord Hari." One of the brothers was astonished to see this behavior of Nityānanda Prabhu, and he once fell down on the feet of him, asking him to pardon his sinful brother. The other one was again attempting to hurt him, but Jagai checked him and implored him to fall down onto the feet of Lord Nityānanda Prabhu. In the meantime, the news of hurting Nityānanda reached the Lord, and he at once came up to the spot in an angry mood like fire. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is mad at you. You should know that nothing can save you. The Lord at once asked for Sudarshan to kill the sinners, but Nityānanda Prabhu reminded him about his mission. The mission of the Lord is to deliver the hopelessly fallen souls of the Kali Yuga, and the two brothers, Jagai and Madai, were typical examples of the present-day population. So there's a very deep moral here, everyone. The population of the present age are 99% like the two brothers, although some of them are born of very respectable families of the higher caste. According to the verdict of the revealed scriptures, all the population of the world of this age will be of the lowest, Sudra quality or less than that, the Chandala quality. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never acknowledged the stereotype caste system by birthright, and he strictly followed the verdict of the Shastras in the matter of one's swarupa, real identity. When the Lord was asking for the Sudarshan Chakra and Srila Nityānanda Prabhu was imploring him to forgive them, both the brothers fell on the lotus feet of the Lord and begged to be pardoned for their gross misbehavior. The Lord was asked by them as well as by Nityānanda Prabhu to accept the repenting souls, and the Lord asked them only one condition, that thenceforward they would completely give up the habit of debauchery and sinful activities. Both the brothers agreed and promised to give up their sinful habits, and the kind Lord accepted them without reference to their past misdeeds and sinful acts. This is the specific kindness of Lord Chaitanya. In this age, nobody can say very boldly that he is free from all kinds of sinful acts. Rather, it is impossible for everyone to say like that. But Lord Chaitanya accepted all kinds of sinful persons only on one condition, that such repenting souls promises not to indulge in the sinful habits after one is spiritually initiated, by the bona fide spiritual master. These are instructive things in this incident of the deliverance of the two brothers, Jagai and Madhai, by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One thing is that in the age of Kali, practically all the people are specimens of Jagai and Madhai, but if they want to be relieved from the reaction of their misdeeds, they must take shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and after spiritual initiation, such persons must refrain from the prohibitory things enjoined in the Shastras. We shall deal in the prohibitory rulings in connections with the Lord's teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami. Oh, isn't that a wonderful pastime? Summarizing the reason for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityānanda to deliver the fallen souls of the Kali Yuga. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could further comment.
Well, you're raising some very important point here. You're raising some very important points.
Yes.
About the power of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not come with the same purpose as Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinachaya chadushkritam. He comes to protect the sadhus, the saintly persons, and to kill the miscreants.
Yes.
But in the incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he comes to deliver them. So Lord Nityānanda Prabhu told him, if you kill everybody, where's the question of delivering them? So in this age of Kali, Prabhupada once commented about this, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to kill their ignorance. To kill their ignorance. And that is done by delivering them with the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
This is the
Hare.
mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to deliver people of the age with the Maha Mantra. And Srila Prabhupada came as the foremost emissary, the foremost ambassador of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He came to deliver the Maha Mantra and to deliver the teachings. This is very important because there are many persons currently who claim to represent Prabhupada, who claim to follow Prabhupada, to deliver Prabhupada's teachings. However, the biggest problem with many of these persons is that they are changing and distorting Prabhupada's teaching. One cannot simultaneously claim to follow Prabhupada and present Prabhupada and at the same time changing Prabhupada's books. That is a contradiction. If those who claim to be following Prabhupada, to be representing Prabhupada, you cannot simultaneously change his teachings, change his books, and distort his teachings, and at the same time boldly proclaiming, oh, we're following Prabhupada. That is not allowed. Because we have explained several times as part of these discussions that following Prabhupada means you have to follow his instructions. You cannot change his instructions in his books, claiming that you're following him. That's a major contradiction. And this is a very important point that many persons do not comprehend and do not understand. Why did Prabhupada say so many times, do not change my books? Do not change my instructions. Why? Because when you change the instruction, everything becomes polluted. We've often discussed this point, and we'll make the point again, how Prabhupada one time was asked about these books, why they're so important. And Prabhupada's point that these books are representative of God. These original books of Srila Prabhupada, the original instructions, are representative of God, representative of Krishna. So if one changes the book, changes the instruction, and distorts the instruction, it is no longer representing. This is a very, very essential, important points that we keep emphasizing from so many different angles. From so many different angles. One cannot distort the instruction of the Acharya, disobey the instruction of the Acharya, change the instruction of the Acharya, and simultaneously claim, oh, we follow the Acharya. No, that is not acceptable. Prabhupada did not want his disciples to change his books, to change his instruction under the guise of so-called editorial correctness. You cannot claim to follow the Acharya if you disobey the Acharya. You cannot claim to represent the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, if you change his books. It is well known that the non-authorized 1983 Bhagavad Gita edition, which has been done by crafty persons, by motivated persons, that this change contains over 4,000 or 5,000 changes from the original Bhagavad Gita, the original 1972 authorized Macmillan edition. Oh, I'm sure that there's plenty of excuses and plenty of rationalizations to justify this. But ultimately, did Srila Prabhupada say that they should go back to the manuscript and change all this? He did not. And we'll leave it at that for now. Hare Krishna.
Well, that's a very good point, and we'll open the floor for discussion. I just wanted to further comment that a lot of times people Prabhupada said, in the material world are envious, that everyone pretty much is affected with this defect. And it appears that despite the fact that Prabhupada had brought this mission of Lord Chaitanya to the most fallen, some of the disciples that he recruited did not give up the envious spirit that they possessed. And some of them even thought that Prabhupada was senile, that he didn't know what he was saying, what he wanted to do. For example, Prabhupada had asked, as you know, Mataji, to go from when he was sick to go to Govardhan Hill. And Yaśodā knows this particular pastime. And some of our godbrothers refused to take him. Why? Oh, he doesn't really know what he's saying or thinking. There's a very famous story, as you all might know, that at the last moment of Prabhupada's Leela, one of our godbrothers, the person that has changed and edited the books, this is not to criticize, it's not meant to criticize, but define who it was, asked Prabhupada this last question, Mother, before Prabhupada departed from the earthly plane. He asked, Jayadvaita asked Prabhupada, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Excuse me? You're asking the pure devotee a question to see if who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What a ridiculous question to ask at that moment, whatever he was thinking. And it proved in the future that he would also come forward as being some kind of sanctified person that could rewrite the Bhagavad Gita as a neophyte third-class devotee. It's a terrible thing. And such people, this poison, everyone, has spread all pervasively around the planet. And unfortunately, the Kali Yuga is raging out of control because of this sinister plot by some ambitious people within our group of disciples. All of us are disciples, but some of them that were with us, to become recognized as great philosophers, great spiritualists, great avatars, pretending, posturing, posing as such, and misleading a lot of people. And we know what went on, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, in Russia. We had a particular godbrother there that went there, and he kicked out all of his godbrothers. Kicked them all out, banished them from the Russian yatra that he was helping to build. And then subsequently, years later, with thousands and thousands of sincere people following him, he blooped. He blooped with his massage therapist. Excuse me. Is that possible? That an Uttama-adhikari, Diksha Guru, falls down like this? No. And there are so many examples of this. Yes, it is, Vinayak. Oh, you've written it. And there are so many examples of these poser, posters, pretenders, like in West Virginia. In West Virginia, I'm very familiar with that. Most of you are not. But I started to go to West Virginia in 1973 when I had a Sankirtan bus. I'm not going to go over the details of that, but I had an interesting conversation with Krishna Katha today. Because we're working on a promotional video to bring more people to our Hare Krishna Society YouTube channel, which we have close to 100,000 views. And on this promo piece, one of our members put up that he was participated in the unfortunate episode with Sulochan Prabhu, if you're familiar, all of you. And we were discussing it, myself and Krishna Katha, and we both know that our godbrother Dharmatma, who I'm in touch with on a regular basis, was the one that went, if you read the book Killing for Krishna, you can read the story. He went and took the money that Kirtananda had requested. I think it was $5,000 or $10,000, $5,000. And he, was it 10,000. So it was $10,000 was given by, from him to Radhanath, one of the other members of the New Vrindavan Mafia criminal group. So, and because Krishna Katha, who's here on the call, was there in Los Angeles when this episode of the murder of Sulochan took place, and he was a key witness in the trial. And subsequently, he became a police officer and a Secret Service person for 34 years after he left the movement, right here on this call. It was revealed in the court that Radhanath's fingerprints were all over the money that they reclaimed from Tirtha, the person that committed the crime. Now someone could say, well, you're fault-finding. Excuse me. This is not a fault. These are facts. These are facts that this whole mission has been destroyed by people like Keith Ham, like Hari Kesh, like Radhanath, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And this is the sadness that we're in right now in this Kali Yuga, that this episode, this mafia, is misrepresenting, misleading, misdirecting, confusing people deeply so they don't, a lot of very sincere souls are lost because of their following these so-called Uttama Adhikari gurus. Very, very tragic. Yaśodā, could you further speak, please?
Well, we know from Srila Prabhupada's writings, for example, in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, when Prabhupada talks about his godbrothers,
yes,
he mentions, we're not proud of this, but the truth must be told.
true.
In Ishopanishad, in one purport, Prabhupada mentions that the truth must be said. There is no compromise in the matter of necessity. Because people will sometimes criticize us. Why are you discussing all these things? Why are you bringing these things from so far back? Well, the truth is the truth. Facts are facts. We can't deny the facts that these activities took place, and we are just discussing the truth to preserve the reputation of Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
To preserve the integrity of Srila Prabhupada's movement, of Prabhupada's teachings. We're not interested in simply criticizing. That is not our desire. That is not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is simply present simply present the truth and the facts as they occurred. Now, we have discussed several times as part of this program that in the future, we would discuss some special events to discuss the events that took place in 1977, especially with this mythology of so-called guru appointment, of so-called Acharya appointments. And we will take care of this. We will discuss this with some select guests, some selected devotees, to really discuss the actual facts of what took place in 1977 and 1978, how the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, the final orders of Srila Prabhupada with regards to initiation were suppressed and misrepresented to the devotees of Srila Prabhupada's society, and how devotees basically were not presented the actual facts of Srila Prabhupada's statements. Now, this is a lengthy topic that has many different angles, many different perspectives, and we will not shy away from presenting the truth of Srila Prabhupada's statements. Now, many devotees, by their own research on the internet, have come to know the truth, have come to understand that Srila Prabhupada did not appoint successors, 11 successor Diksha Gurus. It was a lie, a falsehood, a fabrication, and that lie is still being propagated by many persons within the official institution. Prabhupada's teachings are sacred. They present the truth. Prabhupada's statement is sacred. And the reason why people misrepresented Prabhupada's teachings is, again, the simple point of personal ambition. People wanted to be big avatars, big reputed devotees, big famous devotees. They wanted money, name, fame, power, prestige, profit, adoration, distinction. There's a long list of personal motivation factors why devotees did not follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions to simply act as representatives. This is not common. This is related also directly to the story that many times Bhakta Ram Singh has emphasized, that Prabhupada's instruction for the management of his society was disregarded and disobeyed. They did not follow the Dham, the direction of management. Although they claim they're following, the reality is that they're not. So we'll leave it at that for now. We have some very good esteemed guests on here that you may call upon to discuss various related topics.
We're close to the end. I wanted to mention Krishna Katha, that I had an interesting conversation, Nilesh Sharma, with a fellow called, a God brother of mine, Dharmatma, today. Now, Dharmatma appears in the Peacock special that was recently seen by millions of people on television. And it was a very interesting program. I haven't seen the third part, but it's nothing but a tragedy and an unfortunate revelation of things that went on back then. But nonetheless, he put up a post recently this week, if actually it was yesterday, of Krishna life in Atlanta. Very interesting. Now, I had heard the leader of that group had said, his name is Bhaktivedanta. He had recently spoken on the internet publicly, so it's not something that he was hiding. He was suggesting that all the leaders in the ISKCON group should separate and just go on their own. We might as well do it because it's going to happen eventually. Despite the fact that many of them say they live a life of contradiction. Let's put it that way. So, and compromise. Contradiction and compromise. These are their two main pillars. So he had said they might as well separate and split up and everybody go on their own way, which Prabhupada didn't want us to do. He wanted us all to work together and demonstrate our love for him by that cooperation. And Yaśodā-nanda had brought up an interesting point, Mata, of how in Atlanta there's ISKCON Atlanta. So I thought, oh, okay, there's ISKCON Atlanta. And all of a sudden they're telling us there's now Krishna Life in Atlanta. And they've got their own temple, and they've got their own brahmacharis, and they've got their own books, and they're doing their own thing, and it's headed up by Bhakti Vikash. So I asked our Mahatma this very interesting question today. I didn't challenge him. I didn't argue with him. I didn't try to expose him. I asked him a question, Mother. I asked him, is this a separate group independent of ISKCON? And his answer was, totally independent. There it is. The facts. They all segregated. They all have individual corporations. They all have individual leadership groups. They all have individual purposes. And in this way, this movement has been destroyed by ambition of a few. Completely destroyed. Krishna Katha, we're going to finish up. We're at 9:34. Maybe you could share a few words with us with this
well, thank you,
discussion today.
Again, it's just an amazing historical account. And yes, it's tragic. However, although everything you said about what I know to be true, it isn't just speculation. It's direct evidence in the collection of that money from the suspect and analyzed with a forensic fingerprint expert. And they, of course, matched those fingerprints to Radhanath. And of course, when they went to get him, to include him in the racketeering conspiracy, he had fled the country and went into hiding. So he's the, how do you say, the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more that are guilty of other index crimes. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
go ahead.
We can, yeah, there's a very nice, on the Hare Krishna Society website, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu is interviewed by this very nice gentleman in Indian descent. And he asks for a breakdown of the history of how the zonal Acharya system went to, you know, another system, let's call that number 2, and then number 3. And there's at least a dozen that Yaśodā-nandana just describes perfectly. And if you really look at what is current system, it's completely a repackaging of the previous dozen or so systems. You can't get it right when you start with 2 + 2 = 5. You can't get it right when you disobey the spiritual master. You can't get it right when you tell a lie and then you tell another lie on top of that lie on top of that lie. However you want to break this down, the jiva souls that are somehow attracted, because Krishna is all attractive, let's face it. So even a spoiled bucket of milk still looks like milk. And you might taste it and it's like, oh, okay, is that what milk tastes like? Yeah, that's what milk tastes like. Well, that's a lie. It's spoiled. So they're cheated. I was on another Zoom meeting on Sunday, and a godbrother of ours admitted that when he was initiated by one of the illustrious 11, Nityānanda in Florida, he now, 40 years later, just openly says, I was cheated.
Mm-hmm.
I was cheated. I was given so-called Diksha initiation by a pretender. Mm-hmm. So these are the wake-up calls not only for the devotees that are still in this confused state 40 plus years later, but for all the new Jiva souls that are coming to Krishna consciousness, because it's an unstoppable golden age. You don't stop Sri Krishna Chaitanya's will and fulfilling the desire of his pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. There's no stopping it. So what we are up to is what I pray every day will happen, and happen 100-fold, that there'll be more of these programs put together by more devotees that understand the history, they understand what Prabhupada wants, and they preach it with conviction, like we are today, and like we have for what is it, over 300 different class and discussions already on YouTube. Prabhu,
Yes.
you are doing the good work of Prabhupada. We are redirecting everyone back to Prabhupada. That is the point here. Now, is it a fun thing to do, to have to educate people about a nasty past? No, we would much rather just all be together serving the one and only Diksha Guru. It would be great, but it's not the case. So we have pivoted, and we are doing this program for the benefit of everyone that has this confusion, and there's so much of it out there. So I praise both of you very much. It's always so enlivening to hear you both speak about the truth. And yes, I did witness quite a bit of that nasty past, and but it is in the past, and we have to move forward. And so we hope that every Jiva soul that is serious about Krishna consciousness, about self-realization, hears this message and reads Prabhupada's original books and studies them and gets the real nectar, and also goes back home, back to Godhead, because that's the only version of the books that will do that. Not the Jayadvaita versions. Sorry, not the Jayadvaita versions. Hare Krishna, everyone. Oh, glories to Prabhu.
We're at the end of the program, so thank you everyone for attending. I wanted to mention just quickly that we're working on a campaign to expand this particular format that we have is like the studio audience, where we have 20, 30, sometimes 40 people in attendance at the Zoom meeting. But I wanted to let you know that we're moving ahead. We're moving to 100,000 views of our class and discussion, our readings and discussions for the future generations moving forward, to make them aware. So this is the reason for these programs, to put them into the internet so that people who are researching in the future get the proper understanding. And I wanted to also mention that we're moving ahead with the Prabhupada Vyas Puja offering, so please send that in to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu or myself, or to Vinkat Bhatta Prabhu as well, so we can present that to Srila Prabhupada in September. And I want to thank Bhaktivedanta for working very hard with us, and he's been doing different services for us. And we're going to move forward right now with the Kirtan, and you're going to see the Bhaktivedanta put this video together for us to accompany the Kirtan with Prabhupada playing on the bongo drum, and then we'll have the wind-up of the program and the prayers. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhaivacha patita pavana vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Namaha.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Ram,
Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare.
Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,